The night was quiet on the human colony, a place far away from Earth, built on hard rock and cold winds, a place where people worked in mines, traded metals, and tried to live simple lives. But that night, something different happened. A huge slave ship landed at the edge of the colony. Its engines roared like thunder. Dust rose in the air and the ground shook. The ship was not friendly. Everyone in the colony knew what it meant. It belonged to the warlord. The warlord ruled this sector with fear. He traded in slaves, weapons, and blood. When his ships landed, it always brought sorrow for someone. Inside the ship, alien women stood in chains. They were taken from broken villages and lost battles. They were treated not as people but as gifts. The warlord gave them away to his allies and friends, as if they were nothing more than objects. One of those women was young. Her skin shimmered faintly under the harsh lights. Her large eyes carried both fear and quiet strength. She had no name anyone here cared about. To the warlord's men, she was just a gift when the guards marched her out. She expected to be handed to some cruel man who would treat her as property. But something went wrong. A mistake, small and simple, yet powerful enough to change her fate. The guards had a list of names. One of the names was a wealthy trader, but in the confusion, in the shouting, in the rush of unloading gifts, the alien girl was sent not to the trader, but to a man who lived in the outer block, a man no one paid attention to. His name was Daniel. He was not rich. He was not powerful. He was only a mechanic, fixing old machines and mining tools. The guards knocked on his door roughly. Daniel opened it, confused. His hands were still black, with oil. He looked tired from work. One guard pushed the alien girl forward. "From the warlord, a gift," the guard said sharply, and without waiting for an answer, they walked away. Daniel stood frozen. The alien girl fell to her knees inside his small home. She did not dare raise her head. She thought if she looked at him wrong, he might strike her. She whispered in a trembling voice, "I am yours, master." Daniel's heart stopped for a moment. He had heard of the warlord's cruel trade. He had seen slaves in markets. He hated it but never had the strength to fight against it. Yet now, here one was, in his own home, a living being, breathing, trembling, calling herself his. He knelt down, looking at her closely. She was thin, clearly hungry. Her wrists showed red marks where chains had cut her skin. Her eyes shimmered with fear but also confusion as she tried to understand him. Daniel spoke softly. "I am not your master." She flinched as if he had shouted. No one had ever said such words to her before. She kept her eyes on the ground. "If I am not yours, then I will be punished. Please, do not send me back." Daniel's mind raced. He knew the warlord would be furious if he discovered this mistake. The girl was never meant for him. She was probably meant for someone powerful. Returning her would mean drawing attention, but keeping her would mean danger. Still, as he looked at her shaking hands, his decision came faster than reason. "You can stay," he said quietly. He offered her his hand. She looked at it, confused, slowly reaching. Her fingers touched his palm. Her skin was cold. Daniel helped her stand. He gave her a chair. He poured water into a cup and placed it in front of her. She hesitated. Her mind whispered that it was a trick, but the thirst inside her was stronger. She sipped carefully, then drank faster. Her lips trembled, but she whispered, "Thank you." Daniel watched her with heavy thoughts. He had no idea why fate had chosen him, but deep inside he felt something. It was not pity. It was not fear. It was a strange sense of duty, as if this girl, sent to him by mistake, was now part of his life. Outside, the colony slept in silence. No one knew that one mistake had happened, a mistake that would shake the rule of the warlord and change the fate of one alien girl forever. And inside the small home of a simple mechanic, two lives had just crossed, not by choice but by destiny. The night passed slowly inside Daniel's small home. The alien girl sat on the floor near the corner, her knees pressed close to her chest. Her eyes followed every small sound. The creak of pipes, the hum of the heater, the footsteps of Daniel moving around. She did not sleep. She was too used to danger to let her guard down. Daniel sat at his work table pretending to fix an old mining tool, but his eyes kept glancing at her. He could see her fear. Every time he moved, she flinched. Every time he looked at her, she lowered her head quickly, as if waiting for punishment. Finally, he spoke. His voice was calm. "You don't need to be afraid here." The girl's lips trembled. She whispered softly, "That is what they said before they hurt us." Her words cut deep into Daniel. He put down his tool. "I'm not like them," he said firmly. But she only hugged her knees tighter. The chains of her past were stronger than his words. Daniel stood and walked to his small kitchen. He took out a loaf of bread and a piece of dried meat. It wasn't much, but it was all he had. He placed it gently on the table in front of her. She stared at the food as if it were gold. Her stomach growled, but she did not move. "Eat," Daniel said softly. She shook her head quickly. "I must wait. I can only eat if you order me to, master." Daniel closed his eyes for a moment. His chest tightened. "I told you," he said, sitting across from her. "I am not your master." For the first time, her eyes lifted to his. They were wide and uncertain, but there was a flicker of something else. Hope. She reached out slowly, her fingers shaking. She picked up the bread and ate in small bites at first, then faster, as hunger defeated her fear. Daniel watched in silence. He felt something heavy in his heart. This girl had been treated like property her whole life, and now she didn't even know how to eat without permission. When she finished, she whispered, "Thank you, Daniel." She had heard his name when the guard spoke. It was the first time she said it. Her voice carried a softness that surprised him. "What's your name?" he asked gently. She hesitated, looking down. "Names were taken from us. We are only gifts." Daniel shook his head. "Not anymore. You are not a gift. You're free here. Tell me what you want to be called." The girl looked lost, as if the question itself was too heavy. She whispered, "I don't know." "Then we'll find one together," Daniel said. A strange silence filled the room. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of something new growing. The girl's shoulders relaxed a little. She was still, afraid, but for the first time she was not trembling. The night turned into morning. Light from the colony's lamps outside slipped through the cracks of the window. Daniel prepared for work. He had machines waiting to be fixed. But his mind was heavy with worry. What if the warlord's men came back? What if they realized the mistake? As he pulled on his work jacket, the girl asked quietly, "Will you leave me here?" Daniel looked at her. She was standing now, thin and fragile. Her voice carried fear of being abandoned. "I will come back," he said firmly. "But don't open the door for anyone. Stay hidden if soldiers come. Do you understand?" She nodded. Her eyes followed him as he stepped out. For Daniel, the day felt longer than usual. Every sound of boots in the street made him turn, wondering if they were heading to his home. Every laugh of guards in the distance reminded him of the risk. When he returned that evening, his heart was pounding. He half expected to find his door broken or the girl taken away. But when he opened it, she was there, sitting on the chair, waiting. Her face lit up just slightly when she saw him. "You came back," she whispered. Daniel smiled faintly. "Of course I did." That night they talked more. Daniel told her about his work, about fixing machines, about the colony. She listened carefully, like every word was a treasure. When he asked about her past, she stayed quiet. Her eyes darkened. Daniel didn't push her. He only said, "You don't have to tell me now. Only, when you're ready." For the first time she smiled. It was small, almost hidden, but it was real. But outside, danger was already moving. Whispers spread in the colony that a mechanic had been given a gift by mistake. The warlords. Guards started asking questions. And though Daniel and the girl didn't know it yet, the peace inside his small home was about to break. The colony was never truly quiet. Even in the dead of night, engines groaned in the mines. Workers shouted in the streets and guards patrolled with heavy boots. But now there was something else moving through the air. A whisper, soft but dangerous. They say Daniel the mechanic has a gift, a trader muttered at the marketplace. A gift meant for the warlord himself. Another voice added, if that's true, he's a dead man. The words spread like fire in dry grass by morning, everyone seemed to know. From the miners drinking cheap ale to the merchants counting coins, people whispered about Daniel. Some laughed, some pitied, but most were afraid. Because anyone who stole from the warlord, even by mistake, did not live long. Daniel heard the whispers too. He walked through the market to buy food and eyes followed him. Some people quickly looked away, others leaned in and smirked. A bold man even said, enjoy her while you can, mechanic. The warlord will come for her soon. Daniel clenched his jaw. He said nothing, but inside he burned. He wanted to shout that she was not a gift, not property, but his heart warned him to stay silent. Words could spread faster than knives. When he returned home, he found her sitting quietly near the window, her hands folded neatly on her lap. She looked up when he entered, her eyes softening, in relief. You came back, she whispered again. Daniel forced a smile, hiding his worry. Of course, he said, placing the food down. She noticed his heavy expression. What is wrong? People are talking, Daniel admitted. They know you were sent here, they think you belong to me. Her face paled, her fingers twisted nervously. That is how it always is, she whispered. We are gifts. We belong to whoever takes us. No, Daniel said firmly. Not here, not with me. You belong to yourself. Her eyes widened. The words were simple, but to her they felt impossible. She shook her head. No one has ever said that to me. If the warlord finds me, he will take me back. He will remind me that I am not mine. Daniel leaned closer, his voice steady. Then, he will have to fight me first. She stared at him, silence stretching between them. No one had ever chosen her. Not like this. Not without chains. A warmth spread inside her chest, strange and unfamiliar. That night, she helped him prepare food. Her hands were clumsy, unused to freedom. She spilled water, dropped a knife. But Daniel only laughed softly, never raising his voice. She looked at him in wonder, thinking, maybe he truly is different. But outside, the whispers grew louder. The guards began to notice. They asked questions in the taverns, in the alleys, in the streets. Where's the gift meant for the warlord? One soldier demanded of a miner. I heard it went to the mechanic, the miner replied nervously. Daniel, the one who fixes machines? The soldier's eyes narrowed, his lips curled into a cruel smile. If that is true, then the mechanic is already dead. The next day, Daniel's neighbor, an old woman named Mara, knocked on his door. She leaned close and whispered, Daniel, they are speaking about you in the market. The guards know. They will come. Daniel thanked her, but his chest tightened. He closed the door and looked at the alien girl who was cleaning the table. She noticed his face and froze. They are coming, aren't they? She whispered. He nodded slowly. Yes, fear gripped her. She shook her head. You must send me back. If they find me here, they will kill you. Daniel's voice was calm but unshakable. I will not send you back. You are safe here. Tears welled in her eyes. Why? Why risk your life for me? You don't even know me. Daniel's answer was simple, but his voice carried a weight that made her heart tremble. Because you deserve more than chains. That night, she couldn't sleep. She sat awake watching him repair an old machine. Every spark of light from his tools reflected in her eyes. She thought about her past, about nights filled with fear, hunger, and cruelty. And now here was this man, protecting her, refusing to return her, treating her like a person. When dawn came, the whispers turned into footsteps. Heavy boots echoed. Down the street, torches lit the early darkness. The guards were searching. Daniel heard them outside. He quickly put a finger to his lips. She nodded, hiding behind a panel in the back of his home. Her heart pounded like a drum. The guards banged. On his door. Open up, mechanic. Daniel wiped the grease from his hands and opened the door slowly. his face calm. "What is it?" The soldier smirked. "We've heard you've been keeping something that belongs to the warlord." "A gift." Daniel's heart raced, but he kept his voice steady. "I fix machines, not gifts." The guard shoved past him, searching the room. Daniel's fists tightened, ready to fight. But behind the panel, the girl pressed her hand against her chest, whispering to herself, "He won't give me up, he won't." And though the soldiers left that night without finding her, their suspicion was growing. The whispers had become truth in their minds. And the warlord himself would soon hear that one of his gifts had been claimed. The warlord's palace stood at the edge of the colony like a beast of stone and steel. Its towers reached high into the dusty sky, banners of black and crimson hanging. Like warnings, inside those cold walls, fear was the language everyone understood. When the guards reported the rumor about Daniel, the warlord listened in silence. His golden eyes narrowed. His heavy hands rested on the arms of his throne. "Oh, mechanic?" he growled. His voice was deep, filled with contempt. "A worthless man dares to hold what belongs to me." The guards bowed low. "It seems so, my lord. The girl was sent by mistake." The warlord's laughter was sharp and cruel. "Mistake? There are no mistakes when it comes to me. Everything is mine. If this mechanic thinks he can hide from me, I will make an example of him." That night, torches burned outside Daniel's small home. Boots thundered against the ground. The alien girl clutched Daniel's arm, her eyes wide with terror. "They've come," she whispered. Her voice was almost a sob. Daniel pulled her behind him. His jaw tightened. He had expected this moment, he had feared it, but he would not run, not this time. The door burst open with a crash, splinters flying into the air. 3 guards stormed inside, armored and armed. Their eyes glinted with cruelty as they spotted Daniel standing firm. The girl, the lead guard barked, "Hand her over, mechanic. She is the warlord's property. She was never meant for you." Daniel's voice was calm but iron strong. "She is not property," the guard sneered. One laughed. "Listen to this fool. He thinks he owns her, but she belongs to the warlord. Everything belongs to the warlord." Daniel felt the girl trembling behind him. Her fingers dug into his shirt as if she feared letting go would mean death. He stepped forward, his body a shield. "I said no." The first guard's smile vanished. His hand went to his blade. "Then you will die with her." The fight exploded in the tiny room. Daniel grabbed the closest thing he had, a heavy wrench from his workbench. The guard swung his sword, sparks flying as steel struck metal. Daniel's arms shook from the force, but he held on. The alien girl screamed, ducking low. The second guard moved toward her, but Daniel threw himself in the way. The wrench crashed against the man's helmet, sending him stumbling. For a moment, the air filled with the sound of struggle. Grunts, metal striking metal, the crash of broken furniture. Daniel was no soldier. He had never trained for battle. But his arms were strong from years of fixing machines. His will was sharper than any blade. He fought with the desperate strength of someone protecting more than his life. He was protecting hers. The third guard shoved him hard. Daniel slammed against the wall, blood running down his cheek. "Pathetic," the man hissed, raising his weapon. But before the killing blow fell, the alien girl leapt forward, grabbing a broken piece of wood from the shattered table. With all her fear turned into fury, she struck the guard across the face. He roared in pain, his helmet snapping sideways. Daniel seized the moment, swinging his wrench once more. The guard dropped to the ground, groaning. The other 2 stumbled back, realizing the mechanic would not break so easily. "This isn't over," the lead guard spat, blood dripping from his lip. "The warlord will hear of this. He will come for you himself." They retreated, dragging their injured companion with them. The door hung broken, the air heavy with smoke and blood. Daniel dropped the wrench, his chest heaving. He turned to the alien girl, who stood frozen, shaking. Her eyes were wide with shock, her hands still gripping the broken wood. You fought for me," she whispered, her voice cracked with disbelief. "No one has ever, not like this." Daniel reached out, gently taking the wood from her trembling hands. "I told you," he said softly. "You are not property, not his, not mine. You are free." Her lips trembled. She wanted to cry, to collapse, but instead, she stepped closer, her forehead resting against his chest. Her voice was small, almost lost. Then why does it feel like I belong here, with you? Daniel's arms wrapped around her shoulders, holding her close. He didn't have an answer, but his heart knew the truth. Outside, the colony buzzed with the news. Whispers spread faster than fire. How a simple mechanic had stood against the warlord's guards, how he refused to hand over the alien girl. And in the warlord's palace, rage boiled like fire. The guards told him everything. His eyes blazed with fury, his voice shook the chamber. Bring me the mechanic, alive or dead. Burn his home. Drag the girl back in chains. I will teach this colony what happens when a man forgets who owns him. The order was clear. The warlord's wrath had been unleashed. And Daniel, standing in his ruined home with the alien girl clinging to him, knew the fight had only just begun. The news traveled fast, faster than any transport ship, faster than any trader's whisper. Within a single day, the warlord had heard. His golden hall was filled with smoke from burning torches. His throne sat heavy under his weight, and his voice rumbled like thunder. A mechanic, he growled, his eyes narrowed into slits. A low-born machine fixer dares to keep what is mine? The guards bowed, sweat dripping down their brows. One of them stammered, My lord, it was a mistake during the delivery. The girl was sent to him by accident. He should have returned her at once, but he has not. He hides her. The warlord slammed his fist against the arm of his throne. The sound cracked through the chamber like a whip. A mistake? He roared. No one steals from me by mistake. No one touches my gifts and lives. I will see this man broken, and I will chain her myself. Orders spread from the palace like poison through veins. Soldiers prepared their weapons. The colony. Streets buzzed with the sound of boots and steel. Everyone knew what was coming. The warlord's wrath was not a storm you could hide from. It was fire, and it burned everything in its path. Inside his small home, Daniel repaired a broken water pump, trying to keep his hands busy. The alien girl sat nearby, her thin frame wrapped in a blanket. She watched him quietly, but her eyes kept flicking toward the door, toward the windows, toward the dark streets outside. They will come, she whispered finally. Her voice was low, shaking. Daniel set down the wrench and looked at her. Yes, they will. She hugged, the blanket tighter. If they find me here, they will kill you, please. Please send me away. If I run, maybe they will not punish you. Daniel shook his head, his voice carried no doubt. I am not sending you away. You came to my door. You are under my roof. That means I protect you. Her lips parted. She stared at him as if the words were too heavy to understand. Protect me, she repeated softly. No one protects gifts. We are given, taken, thrown away, but never protected. Daniel leaned forward, his eyes locked with hers. Then let this be the first time. The knock came like thunder. The door rattled under the force of fists. Mechanic, a soldier's voice bellowed. By order of the warlord, open this door. The girl's hands shook violently. Daniel placed a steady hand over hers, whispering, Stay behind me. No matter what happens, do not leave. The door burst open. With a crash, 3 guards stormed inside, steel glinting in the dim light. The leader sneered at Daniel. You know why we're here, hand over the girl. Daniel stood firm, grease and sweat still on his clothes. She is not yours. He said evenly, She is not anyone's. The guards laughed cruelly. A bold tongue for a man who fixes broken parts. Do you think you can fight us? Daniel's eyes hardened. If I must. The leader snarled and stepped forward. His hand shot out to shove Daniel aside, but Daniel's fist swung first, catching the man across the jaw. The room exploded into chaos. The alien girl screamed. As the guards attacked, one raised his blade, but Daniel grabbed a heavy wrench from his table. Steel clashed against steel. Sparks flew as he blocked the strike. His arms ached, but he refused to give way. Another guard lunged for the girl. She stumbled back, terror freezing her. But Daniel roared, shoving the attacker away. His wrench slammed against the guard's shoulder. sending him crashing into the wall. The fight was messy, brutal. Daniel was no warrior. He had no training, no polished skill. But he fought with something greater, rage and resolve. Every swing of his wrench carried the weight of his promise. He would not hand her over. Blood trickled down his cheek. His breath came heavy. But when one guard tried again to drag her away, Daniel tackled him. Both men crashed onto the floor, fists flying. The alien girl could only watch, her heart breaking with fear and awe. Finally, the surviving guard stumbled back, bruised and beaten. The leader spat blood onto the ground. His voice was filled with venom. "This is not finished, mechanic. The warlord himself will deal with you, and when he comes, not even your stubborn heart will save you." They left, dragging their wounded companion into the night. The door hung broken on its hinges. The house smelled of sweat, iron and smoke. Daniel dropped the wrench, his chest heaving, his arms trembling. He turned and found the girl staring at him, her eyes wide, her lips shaking. You fought for me," she whispered. Her voice cracked as if she couldn't believe her own words. Daniel nodded slowly, wiping the blood from his brow. "I told you, you are not property. You are not his." Her knees buckled. She fell against him, clinging tightly. Her voice was small, almost desperate. "Then where do I belong?" Daniel wrapped his arms around her trembling form. "Here," he whispered. "With me. If that is what you choose." Her tears soaked his shirt. But her heart felt lighter than it had in years. For the first time, she was not just surviving. She was wanted. But outside, the torches burned brighter. Soldiers spread through the colony, and in the palace the warlord sharpened his blade. His wrath was coming, and it would fall like a storm upon them both. The house still smelled of blood and smoke. The broken door leaned on one hinge. Cold air slipping inside, Daniel tied a strip of cloth around his bleeding arm. His muscles ached, his chest burned with every breath. Yet he stood tall, his eyes set with quiet resolve. The alien girl sat, close to him. Her hands hovered as if she wanted to help but did not know how. Finally, she whispered, "Why did you fight them? Why risk everything for me?" Daniel looked at her. His face was tired but steady. "Because no one should be owned. Not by the warlord, not by me. You're not a gift. You're a person." Her lips parted, tears welled in her eyes. For so long, no one had said words like that to her. She pressed her hand against his, trembling. "Then why do I feel like I belong here with you?" Daniel squeezed her fingers gently. "Maybe because for the first time you're safe." The next days were filled with silence and fear. The colony buzzed with rumors. People whispered about Daniel in the marketplace. Some called him foolish. Some called him brave. All knew the warlord would strike back. Daniel continued his work, fixing machines and water pumps, but his thoughts were always on her. He noticed how she moved carefully, how she still flinched at sudden sounds. But little by little, she began to change. She sat closer to him at night, asked him questions about the colony, even tried to help him with his tools, her hands clumsy but her eyes eager. One evening, Daniel showed her how to hold a wrench properly. She laughed softly when it slipped from her hand. The sound was quiet, almost fragile, but it filled his home with something warm. For a moment, Daniel forgot the danger outside. He only saw her smile. But the warlord did not forget. From his palace he sent new orders. Destroy the mechanic, capture the girl, burn his home to ash. The soldiers prepared in secret, waiting for the right night, waiting to strike like wolves. Daniel knew it was coming. He saw the way guards lingered longer near his street, how neighbors avoided his eyes. He began preparing, packing food, tools, and water into a small bag. One night he told her, "We can't stay here. They will come again, and next time, they'll bring more men." Her eyes widened with fear. "Where will we go?" Daniel looked toward the hills beyond the colony, where old tunnels ran through the rock. Someplace safer, someplace they won't expect. The attack came sooner than he thought. It was deep into the night when flames suddenly lit the street. The warlord's men had come with torches, fire spilling against the walls of nearby houses. Neighbors fled in terror, shouting warnings. Daniel grabbed the girl's hand. "We have to move now." The door burst open again. Soldiers stormed inside with blades drawn, but Daniel was ready this time. He swung his wrench, knocking one soldier back. He pushed the girl through the back door. "Run!" The alley was filled with smoke. The night sky glowed orange. Soldiers chased after them, their shouts filled the air. Daniel and the girl sprinted through the narrow streets. Her bare feet cut against the stones, but she didn't slow down. She clung to his hand as if letting go meant death. They reached the edge of the colony where the tunnels began. Daniel shoved aside a broken fence and pulled her inside. The dark swallowed them, only their breaths and footsteps echoing against the walls. Inside the tunnels, the girl stumbled, her legs weak. Daniel caught her, steadying her against his chest. She panted, tears streaking her dusty cheeks. "Why don't you leave me? If you give me to them, they will stop hunting you." Daniel shook his head, his voice firm even in the darkness. "I will never give you back. Not now. Not ever." Her chest tightened. Her heart beat fast. She whispered, "Then I am yours." Daniel stopped, looking into her wide, trembling eyes. He spoke gently. "Not mine, you are your own, but if you choose to stay with me, then we'll face whatever comes together." Her tears spilled freely. She pressed her forehead against his shoulder, whispering, "Then I choose you." Deeper in the tunnels, they found an old shelter, dust-covered but safe. Daniel built a small fire. The warmth flickered across their faces. He sat close to her, his arm brushing hers. For the first time, she leaned against him without fear. In that quiet, something changed. Their bond was no longer just protector and protected. It was stronger, forged in fire and danger. A connection built not on chains but on choice. But outside, the warlord's fury spread like wildfire. Soldiers scoured the colony, dragging people from their homes, demanding to know where Daniel and the alien girl had gone. The warlord swore before his throne, "I will not rest until the mechanic is broken and the girl is mine again." And in the tunnels, as the firelight danced between them, Daniel and the alien girl held on to each other, knowing the storm was not over, but also knowing they would not face it alone. The tunnels stretched like veins under the colony. Damp and cold, Daniel guided the girl carefully, their footsteps echoing off the stone. He held a small lamp, its weak glow pushing back the darkness. She stayed close, her hand gripping his arm, as if letting go would mean being swallowed whole. For 2 nights they hid there, sharing scraps of food and water. Daniel repaired an old vent to bring in fresh air. He made her laugh once by pretending to fix a broken rock. The sound of her laughter echoed in the hollow walls. Fragile but alive, but danger pressed closer with every passing hour. Patrols stomped through the colony above. The warlord's men dragged families from their beds, shouting questions, beating answers out of anyone too slow. The whole colony lived in fear. Everyone knew this hunt was not just for a girl. It was for control. If one mechanic could defy the warlord, then what stopped anyone else? On the 3rd day, Daniel knew they couldn't keep hiding. He sat by the fire, staring at the flames. The girl leaned against him, her eyes half closed from exhaustion. "They won't stop," he whispered. "Not until they burn everything. If I keep running, they'll hurt others. They'll punish the colony for protecting me." She lifted her head slowly. "Then we run farther," she said softly. "Far from here, into the stars, into anywhere they cannot follow." Daniel shook his head. His jaw tightened. "No, I can't keep running. If I do, they win. If I do, they'll keep calling you a gift. They'll keep chaining others." Her lips trembled. "What will you do?" Daniel's eyes were steady. "I will stand, not just for you, but for everyone. Someone has to show them the warlord can bleed." She grabbed his hand, fear rushing through her voice. "He will kill you. You are only one man." Daniel looked at her, his voice low but unbreakable. "Sometimes one man is enough." That night, Daniel left the tunnels and went to the colony's center. He called together the miners, the traders, the tired families who lived under the warlord's shadow. They gathered in whispers, fearful of spies, but Daniel's voice carried with fire. "You all know what he wants," he said. "You all know what he does. He takes, he burns, he calls people property. And we let him because we are afraid. But fear only makes his chains stronger." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some shook their heads, afraid. Others clenched their fists. Daniel raised his voice. "He sent soldiers to my home. He wanted to take someone who came to me by mistake, but I did not give her up. And I will not. She is free, and so should we be." A miner spat on the ground. "You'll get us all killed, mechanic. You don't know his wrath." Daniel's eyes burned. "I've seen it, I've felt it. But I also know this. He is only one man. His soldiers are only men. They bleed, they fall, just like us. If we stand together, he cannot chain us all." The silence hung heavy until an old woman stepped forward. Mara, Daniel's neighbor, her voice cracked but clear. "The mechanic is right. I've lived long enough under his shadow. If he wants to burn us, then let him see we will not bow." One by one, voices joined, not all, but enough. A spark lit in the darkness. Back in the tunnels, the girl waited, her hands twisting nervously. When Daniel returned, she rushed to him. "What did you do?" Daniel smiled faintly, his clothes dusted with ash. "I lit a fire." She stared, confused. "What fire?" "The kind that doesn't burn buildings," he said softly. "The kind that burns in people's hearts." Her eyes filled with tears. You're trying to change everything." Daniel touched her cheek gently. "I can't do it alone, but with them. And with you. Maybe we can." The warlord soon heard of the meeting. His fury shook the walls of his palace. "They dare defy me," he bellowed. His fists crashed against the table. "Then I will crush them all. I will bring fire until nothing remains but ash." His army prepared, stronger than before. But Daniel was not hiding anymore. He stood at the front of the colony, beside the miners with their pickaxes, the traders with their knives, even children with stones. The alien girl stood beside him, fear in her heart but strength in her eyes. The warlord's banners appeared on the horizon, black and red, carried by soldiers who thought the colony would break at their sight. But for the first time, the people did not cower. They stood shoulder to shoulder because one mechanic had refused to bow. And as the warlord's wrath marched closer, Daniel lifted his wrench high, his voice carrying over the crowd. "We are not gifts. We are not property. We are free, and tonight we fight to stay free." The colony roared. A storm was coming, and Daniel would meet it head-on. The night sky burned red with firelight. The warlord's banners rose on the horizon. Dark silhouettes of soldiers marched in rows, blades and rifles gleaming under the flames. The ground trembled under their boots. The colony had seen his wrath before, but this time something was different. This time the people stood. Daniel stood at the front with his wrench gripped tightly in his hand. His clothes were torn, his arms still bandaged, but his eyes were steady. Beside him, the alien girl stood wrapped in a shawl, her face pale yet unshaken. She no longer looked like a trembling slave. Her chin was lifted, her gaze fierce. The warlord rode at the head of his men. His golden eyes blazed with fury. His voice roared like thunder across the open square. "You dare defy me, mechanic? You dare keep what belongs to me?" Daniel shouted back, his voice strong enough to carry to every ear. "She is not yours. She was never yours. She belongs to no one, not even me. She belongs to herself." A murmur rippled through the crowd. The words spread like sparks into hearts long frozen with fear. The warlord laughed cruelly. "Then you will die with her, and your people will suffer for your foolishness." He raised his hand, and the soldiers surged forward. The battle was chaos. The warlord's soldiers outnumbered the colony, armored and trained, but the people fought like cornered wolves. Miners swung pickaxes, traders hurled knives, even children threw stones. Every strike, every shout was fueled not by fear but by anger that had been buried for years. Daniel fought at the front, his wrench clashing against steel. Sparks flew as he blocked blow after blow. His arms ached, blood smeared his brow. But he never backed down. The alien girl stayed close, not with a weapon, but with courage, pulling the wounded back, shouting warnings, her voice carrying through the smoke. At the heart of the chaos, the warlord pushed forward. His massive blade cut through men. As if they were nothing, his roar silenced the crowd. "Where's the mechanic? Bring me his head." Daniel stepped out of the smoke, bloodied but unbroken. His voice rang clear. "I'm right here." The two clashed in the center of the square. The warlord swung with brute force, each strike enough to crush bone. Daniel dodged, blocked with his wrench, sparks flying. The crowd held its breath, watching a mechanic face a monster. The warlord sneered. "You are nothing. You fix broken things. You cannot fight me." Daniel gritted his teeth. "Maybe, but I can fight for her." The alien girl's voice rang out, sharp and trembling. "And for all of us." Her words gave the colony new strength. The people surged again, driving back the soldiers. The square filled with roars of defiance. The warlord's blade crashed against Daniel's wrench, snapping the metal in two. Daniel stumbled back, the crowd gasping. The warlord raised his sword high for the final strike. But before it fell, the alien girl leapt forward, grabbing a broken spear from the ground. She swung with all her strength, striking the warlord across the face. His golden eyes widened in shock. Daniel seized the moment, grabbing the jagged piece of his broken wrench. He drove it into the warlord's side. The warlord roared in pain, stumbling back, blood pouring from the wound. For the first time, he looked human, weak, fallible. The colony erupted in shouts. "He bleeds! He can fall!" The warlord staggered, trying to lift his blade again, but the crowd surged forward, swarming him. Miners struck with pickaxes, traders stabbed with knives. His own men faltered, their courage broken as they watched their leader fall. With one final cry, the warlord crashed to the ground. The firelight glinted off his blood. His reign ended not by an army, not by a king, but by a mechanic and a girl who had once been called a gift. Silence filled the square, broken only by the sound of heavy breaths. The colony stood among smoke and ash, bruised, bloodied, but alive, and for the first time in years, free. Daniel dropped to his knees, exhausted. The alien girl rushed to him, kneeling by his side. Her hands touched his face, trembling. "You're alive," she whispered, tears shining in her eyes. Daniel gave a weak smile. "Told you. One man can be enough." She let out a soft laugh through her tears, then pressed her forehead against his. Her voice cracked but full of truth. "You gave me more than freedom. You gave me a home. You gave me a choice." Daniel's hand covered hers. "And what do you choose?" Her lips trembled, her eyes locked with his. "I choose to stay, not as a gift, not as a slave, but as myself." The crowd around them began to cheer, their voices rising into the night, chanting freedom, hope, and his name.